It was the strangest thing. As Donald Trump's civil trial opened in Manhattan, a television camera suddenly started showing shaky pictures of the former president walking in, addressing reporters, but no sound. There was even a shot of Justice Arthur Engoron, who mugged for the audience. But to hear what was on the former president's mind, you just had to wait for a break in the proceedings each day.
Letitia James is a disgrace to our country and to the state of New York. She should focus on all of the violent crime and the murders going on. But I'm here, stuck here, and I can't campaign. I'd rather be right now in Iowa. I'd rather be in New Hampshire or South Carolina.
The judge issued a gag order after Trump took to Truth Social to criticize his law clerk, Allison Greenfield, falsely mocking her as Chuck Schumer's girlfriend and warning of serious consequences if the order was violated. The case itself against Trump and his company sparking vastly different media reactions.
Businessmen, don't you dare ever run for president again. If you do, you'll get the corporate death penalty. First, they come for your freedom, and then they come for your company.
These cases and having cameras, et cetera, all benefit Donald Trump. He is a showman. He wants a show.
And we're back with the panel. Jason Chaffetz, whether you think this civil fraud suit should have been brought or not, wasn't it inevitable with Trump's attacks on the racist and incompetent Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, and the deranged and Trump hater Judge Engoron, that he'd get hit with a gag order?
None of this is inevitable. Look, I mean, it's Donald Trump. He's running for the presidency of the United States, and he has a First Amendment right to voice his opinion. You don't get to just gag a presidential candidate. You don't get to gag an average person who is out there. They can speak in this country. The Democrats are so quick to run to say, oh, we got to gag you. Oh, we got to shut you down. What's up with that? When did the liberals start to accept the idea that the First Amendment really wasn't that important? We're less than 100 days from the Iowa caucuses. Donald Trump has been in business for decades. They bring this suit against him right now. You think that's a coincidence? Most of America has figured out this gig.
Right. Well, of course, Trump is not completely gagged, Laura. He's just gagged against, for example, attacking the judge's staff. The media are all over this, in part because of the attack on the judge's law clerk with an allegation that turned out to be false. And critics say he could be putting her or people like her in danger.
Absolutely. This is really about the rule of law, which I know Congressman Chaffetz knows has limits in the Constitution, and it's also about keeping people safe. We saw threats against election officials. We saw threats against people in law enforcement, and I'll tell you what's up with that. It's very important to continue to enforce the rule of law, to make sure that our public servants are safe, that our citizens that are volunteering as grand jurors are safe, and if that involves a very narrow order to not threaten and to make misleading and false statements about the people that are supporting our democracy by serving it with their professionalism and their lives. I think it's a really, that is not a tall order, and that's not a lot to ask, and that's not a gag order. That's simple human decency, and that's protecting the rule of law and the people who uphold it.
Now, Trump called Letitia James the worst attorney general in the United States, said crime is so bad in New York, help. But let's give some equal time to the New York Attorney General. Roll it.
What they were comments that unfortunately fomented violence, comments that I would describe as race-bait. The Donald Trump show is over.
So, Jason, Trump also broadcast his view that there are no victims here. The banks got repaid. The valuation of Mar-a-Lago was ridiculously low at $18 million. And while we only got secondhand media accounts because of the lack of cameras of what was being argued inside the courthouse.
Well, again, the president's been in the real estate business for a long time. And you know what? He is right. But I just think it's a fact that she's one of the worst attorney generals that there's ever been. And they're ignoring the crime and all the other things that are going on in the world. This is where the attorney general is spending her time? You got to be kidding me. Everything is going wrong in New York. Every metric is upside down and crime is rampant. And they're talking about real estate valuations. I don't think the average American believes that that is worthy of the attorney general's time.
Yeah, and of course, Letitia James James ran on a platform of she was going to investigate Trump, she was going to get Trump, Laura, but it's not hype with the judge already having ruled that there was serious inflation of real estate assets to say this threatens the company that bears his name and his ability to do business in New York State, Laura.
Well, we can't have rules for thee and not for me. I can't lie on a home loan about my assets and get away with it. These are federal documents. This is the rule of law. And we do not have different rules for people just because they have money and businesses. And I think that holding Donald Trump accountable is something that Americans can relate to, because they know that just because you're at the top doesn't mean that you can't perpetrate, and let's be clear, this wasn't a subtlety or a decimal error. This was orders of magnitude, overestimation, inflation of assets. This was a broad and well thought out fraud that Donald Trump was perpetrating. And the judge's order was clear. The math is correct. And no matter how many media outlets might say, oh, but Mar-a-Lago's worth $1 billion. When the Palm Beach assessor says 18 to 27 million and the Trump organization agrees, there's a problem there. And it's good that he's being held accountable. And Letitia James is brave to do so, because we know she's under death threats and a lot of pressure in the face of it.
All right. Well, I think the Palm Beach assessment is totally wrong, having been to Mar-a-Lago. Jason, just briefly, while the media are convinced that Trump being tied up in courtrooms would damage his campaign, I wrote a column a while back saying he didn't have to campaign another day between now and Super Tuesday, because his base is very dedicated to the former president. And these indictments and lawsuits like this one just make them feel even more that he's being persecuted.
There's a lot of truth to that, Howie. I totally agree, because, people just feel like they're always going after him. What does he have, 91 counts against him? I mean, why not make it around 100? And again, I think they've done a pathetic job of going out to the American people and explaining to them what it is, the smoking gun that they think is so wrong here. And that the victim, like, who's the victim in all of this? They're left scratching their head. And so they just feel like, hey, you know what? You've made Donald Trump the martyr, and he should be able to go out and campaign in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina, along with all the other candidates.
Well, he was campaigning during the breaks in the proceeding there. Jason Chaffetz, Laura Fink, thanks so much for joining us after the break. What makes Elon Musk tick? And is he the savior or the saboteur of Twitter? His biographer, Walter Isaacson, is next.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.